And just like every other girl out there who overplays her hand with a man she knows could do without her, she's blown up my phone the entire drive back to Vegas. Come back. I was kidding. Why are you being stupid? I'm sorry. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to wine and dine me. Blah, blah, blah. And no, I didn't turn around, and no, I didn't respond. I put her ass on ice for a few days, just like I talked about on Monday's video, How to Stop Female Manipulation. During this time, she called and texted me nonstop, leaving about a dozen voicemails. And on the afternoon of the third day, I texted her, we need to talk, my place at 7. Today only, get up to 60% off all products, no coupon needed. Insane discounts on the Gold Digger Guide, the Shit Test Guide, How to Master the Game, the 49 Laws of Sharpe, and the entire Womanese series, and much more. You can only get these discounts at tsracademy.com. Again, that's tsracademy.com. Link in description. Throughout life, we all learn lessons about many different things. We learn the way the world works mainly through trial and error. If we fail a test in school, we study for the next one to make sure we don't fail again. If we got our butt kicked in a fight, we must learn to fight so that we can kick their butt, or at least not get ours kicked again. If you fail at one business, you take the lessons learned and apply it to your new business. You get the idea. For reasons known only to the creator himself, one of the few exceptions to this rule, as far as people who are smart enough to make adjustments in every other part of their lives, is relationships. For whatever reason, we don't adjust our habits and characteristics to ensure we don't get the same outcome, which of course is the end of a relationship. Now, as far as men go, we have this community to help us make the changes necessary to reduce the odds of getting burned by females, whether it's getting cheated on, baby-trapped, decimated by divorce, henpecked by women, or any number of the many ways females can get over on us and ruin our lives. That is what this and many other channels like it are predicated upon. Women, on the other hand, have no interest in changing their habits, circumstances, or characteristics to ensure that they can secure a relationship of consequence with a man of value. The reason for this is simple. They don't think they have to. You see, females do such a good job at convincing themselves that every single breakup was the guy's fault that they rarely make the necessary changes to clean up their act. But what they don't realize is that they have habits they bring into every relationship, essentially ends it before it begins. Now, the reason they don't have a clue is because of this. They never really see a need to change until they're around 35, and they realize that bed hopping their way through their 20s may not have been the best idea if they wanted to be in a good relationship with a man they respect and love. Well, today I'm going to give you guys 6 terrible habits that women have that sabotage their relationships before they even begin. Number 1, they try to change or fix you. Now, women do this without even thinking about it. It starts with, Donovan, I wish you'd trim your beard. Then it escalates to, you'd look so much better clean shaven. One thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're a completely different person than you were when you first met her. And guess what? That's the reason she'll end up leaving you, and she'll say it's because you're not the same person I met. And you think to yourself, but I did everything she asked me to do, which is true. But even though women are designed to try to change men, they don't really want you to change, even though they're convinced that they do. Women might not know what they want, but they know what they don't want. And what they don't want is a man who follows orders and changes who he is on a woman's whims. Women simply do not understand that if a man makes the changes she nags him about, he is going to become something she despises. Now, she's not going to realize it at the time, but one day it will hit her when a guy who is just like you used to be hits on her. And when that happens, it's game over. Illimitable Man wrote an article entitled Dominance and Submission, and in that post, there is a passage that encapsulates this phenomenon perfectly. The passage says, quote, "The man must act upon and mold a woman more than she does him. For if the woman is to act upon and mold the man, she will create something she finds aberrant. More simply and explicitly stated, a woman will mold a man into something she despises, but a man will mold a woman into someone he loves." When a woman asks you to change something about yourself, it is simply a masculinity test, and she doesn't even know it. She doesn't want you to change. She wants you to stay exactly who you are. And by doing so, you are far more likely to keep her respect and attraction. Number 2, they put their ex on a pedestal. Most of the time when a girl talks about her ex, she's blaming everything on him. It's always, he was abusive and an alcoholic and a drug dealer and a gambler and a criminal and an ex-con, and he was just rotten to the core through and through, and there was nothing good about him. Par for the course, because girls never own up to their part of the demise of any given relationship. But a lot of these girls will actually pedestalize their exes even after bad-mouthing them. They'll say things like, well, he was abusive, but oh my God, the bedroom fun was so good. Or, we had our bad times, but nobody loved me like he did. And the more she says stuff like this, the more she starts to romanticize the past, like all girls do with their past boyfriends. And if you jump in and say anything about her ex when she is telling these stories, like, damn, he really sounded like a D-bag, she'll literally do a 180 and start defending him, which makes you look like a jackass. And before you know it, you realize she's been alpha widowed. Then it won't be long before she subconsciously starts comparing you to her ex, and eventually she starts smashing him on the side. And because most men don't check this behavior, women sabotage their relationships without even realizing they are. Number 3, they leave out details about men. Now, I'm not talking about the typical stuff like, I've only slept with 5 guys my entire life, or I've never cheated on anybody. Oh no. I'm talking about everyday situations where they leave out the fact that they ran into their ex at the grocery store, or that the coworker she's going to a conference with is a man. When girls leave out these kinds of details, it's because they don't want you to know about whatever guy they're with or the guy they saw. And the reason for that is because she was attracted to him. Now, that's not a crime, because your girl is going to be attracted to other men. She's human. She has eyes. She is going to be attracted to men other than you. Get used to that fact. That's life. That's the game. It's part of the gig. But when you find out that her yoga instructor is a 6'4" Adonis with movie star looks, you're going to be pissed off because she never mentioned the fact that he was a man. You assumed he was a woman because his name was Kelly or Jesse or Cameron, and your woman knew that you would assume he was a woman because of his name. And your woman knew it but didn't tell you because she knew you'd have a problem with it. Women sabotage their relationships in this way by putting themselves in situations that are conducive to cheating. Like I said before, being attracted to men other than their significant others doesn't make them bad wives or girlfriends, but putting themselves in these situations by not telling men the whole truth about these situations does. This is why women need to be with a man who protects her from herself, but that would mean actually admitting that they can't be trusted when left to their own devices, and we all know that's not happening. Number 4, they take relationship advice from their banana-gobbling friends. One of the most detrimental things women do to themselves is taking relationship from their single friends. Not their married friends or friends who have good relationships, oh no. They take advice from their promiscuous friends, their single friends, their married friends who are cheating on their husbands, and their friends who are in a new relationship every other week. Now, the reason they never take advice from women who are in good marriages or successful long-term relationships is because the advice they give isn't the advice they want to hear. She has asked her friends who are in good relationships for advice in the past, and the advice they gave her was difficult to hear and even more difficult to follow. She was told that in order to gain trust from her boyfriend, that she needed to give him access to her phone and be open and honest about her whereabouts at all times. But because girls ain't trying to hear or do it, she ends up getting advice from her other friends. You know, the ones who cheat on their boyfriends and sleep with 3 different guys every week. Now, you would think that these girls would ask themselves, why would I take financial advice from someone who's broke? Then equate that to, well, then why would I take relationship advice from Courtney, who goes home with random guys from the club every weekend? Number 5, she watches too many romantic comedies. When girls watch these kinds of movies, they internalize something that isn't real. A tall, dark, and handsome man with all of the physical alpha traits who acts like a beta who can't live without them. They're too stupid to realize that men who look like this are never fixated on one woman and won't follow her to the ends of the earth in a hilarious whirlwind romance filled with laughter and love. Starts tomorrow in select cities, rated R. There are so many girls out here looking for that perfect, awkward, funny, romantic chance meeting at a grocery store with a tall, tan, gorgeous, blonde-haired, blue-eyed stud. And they never find him. And the reason is because life ain't the movies. And even if they do find this mythical guy, they don't know how to act. Why? Because the movie ends before John Cusack and Katherine Heigl get married, have 3 kids, they're up to their eyeballs in debt, and they hate each other because she's having an affair, he lost his job, and their 15-year-old daughter has a 28-year-old boyfriend who just got out of prison for Grand Theft Auto. Then they wonder where all the good men have gone and why their lives aren't going according to plan. Number 6, they try to weaponize sex. And I'll tell you a personal story. I was seeing this hot Mexican girl I met at Senior Frogs who lived up in Indian Springs. I'd put her somewhere between a 9 and a 9.5. Now, for the first month or so, things were solid. The fooling around between the sheets was above average at best, as is the case with more hot girls than one might think. But she was indeed really hot, and she was also very sweet, which means she was probably an ugly duckling, because girls as hot as her were usually pretty bitchy. Unless, of course, they were ugly ducklings as children, which is what I suspected about this girl. Anyway, I drove up there one night and we're hanging around, and I come up behind her and kiss her neck to let her know it's about to go down. Now, usually she reciprocates, and 15 seconds later she's butt naked and on her knees. But this time was a little different. Instead of letting me pull up her dress and get it in, this chick has the gall to say to me, "You haven't earned it yet." Now, she laughed while she said it, so I thought she was joking around trying to be playful. So I try again and she pulls away and says, "No, I'm serious. You haven't earned it yet." So I was confused and said, "Are you kidding me with this?" She says, "No, I'm not kidding, Donovan. You can't just waltz in here and smash without whining and dining me a little bit." And I said to her, "Well, I ain't the whining and dining type." And she says, "Well, then I guess you're not getting laid tonight." And I said, "That's what you think," and walked right out the door. What this girl didn't know was that she was the side chick. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was coming to my place later that night. This is exactly why what Indian Springs girl tried to pull didn't faze me. That's the power of abundance. Anyway, girls try to pull this nonsense all the time. They give up the booty in the beginning and then try to take it away to control you. Now, the average man would have fallen for Indian Springs girls' BS, but not me. And just like every other girl out there who overplays her hand with a man she knows could do without her, she's blown up my phone the entire drive back to Vegas. "Come back. I was kidding. Why are you being stupid? I'm sorry. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to whine and dine me." Blah, blah, blah. And no, I didn't turn around, and no, I didn't respond. I put her ass on ice for a few days, just like I talked about on Monday's video, How to Stop Female Manipulation. During this time, she called and texted me nonstop, leaving about a dozen voicemails. And on the afternoon of the third day, I texted her, "We need to talk, my place at 7. And at 6:45, she gets to my place dressed like she was headed to work at a gentleman's club. Short skirt, heels, curly hair, hoop earrings, red lipstick, and a barely there blouse that covered maybe 10% of her C-cup you-know-whats. I was pretty sure she wasn't wearing a bra. Anyway, when she nervously asked me about what we needed to talk about, I shrugged my shoulders and said, and I quote, "Never mind, it wasn't a big deal." She breathed a sigh of relief and then asked me what I wanted her to cook me for dinner. I told her, "It's all on the counter, medium rare." True story, gentlemen. I had taken out a New York strip about a half an hour before she arrived because I knew that she would offer herself up on a silver platter and do whatever I wanted her to do. So before I rearranged her insides, I wanted her to cook me a steak. Not just because I was hungry, but to put her back in her place, which was subservient, submissive, and obedient with no whining and dining needed. She was on my territory, and I wanted to drill into her psyche that she was there to serve me. So she eagerly goes into the kitchen, skirt, hoops, heels, and all, and cooks my steak and broccoli to perfection. Then willingly and eagerly gives me access to all 3 of her luscious little holes. No exaggeration, guys. This is exactly what happened to the letter. And by the way, I was only half right. She wasn't wearing a bra, but she wasn't wearing panties either. Anyway, that night of bedroom fun was far above average, and it stayed that way for quite a while, as she gladly accepted her role as my side chick for about the next 7 or 8 months. That's right, guys. The night she came over to get her brakes beat off after I put her on ice, I told her I had a girlfriend and she still stuck around. She didn't like it, but she accepted it, and she still treated me like a king. That is how desperate she was to keep me in her life. This again, gentlemen, is the power of the abundance mindset. Now, eventually, she did end things because no side chick wants to be a side chick forever. They want that #1 spot. But after I shut her down for about the 4th or 5th time, she decided to move on. And it would be disingenuous of me to tell you that that one didn't sting a little. She was hot, she was actually sweet, and did whatever I told her to. But one of the main reasons I didn't make her my main chick was because she willingly played second fiddle to another woman, which likely means she had self-worth issues. Remember, she was an ugly duckling. And while that explains her kind disposition, it also explains her promiscuous proclivities. You see, the night I approached her at Senior Frogs, she was there with her boyfriend, and she still gave me her number. Going back to when she tried to withhold intimacy from me, any other man would have stayed there and jumped through her hoops, and they would have lost all respect. Sure, they may have kept sleeping with her, but failing a poop test like that is the beginning of the end. How much do you want to bet she regularly withheld her body from her boyfriend? Girls who try to weaponize sex to control men they actually like sabotages their relationships, and once again, it's probably because one of their eggplant-eating friends told them to do it to gain control of the relationship. So fellas, what behaviors and characteristics can you add to this list? And ladies, when are you going to stop taking relationship advice from your friends who sleep around? You wouldn't take fitness advice from a fat girl, would you? Come on, ladies, use your heads. You're smarter than this. And for less than the cost of an eggplant at the supermarket, you can get access to hundreds of videos and thousands of hours of content not found anywhere on patreon.com/DonovanSharpe. Audio and video versions of my complete archive, podcast versions of my live streams free of the small talk and chat conversation responses, videos banned from every platform, including this one, discounts on courses, access to my weekend webinars, the ability to watch tomorrow's video today, and much more. Join our community of over 1,500 men who strive to dominate life at patreon.com/DonovanSharpe. The link is in the description.